الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على إمام الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأنصاره وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. أما بعد, beloved brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to this another of our sittings. Today we will be continuing with the Tafseer of Surah Al-Ankabut, Surah 29. Yesterday we started the Tafseer, and it's the first time I have discussed this Surah. We haven't covered this topic before. This is the very first time we are doing the Tafseer of Surah Al-Ankabut, and there are other surahs that we need to cover. Authentic Tawhid 5, I know you recorded yesterday's dars. The topic for yesterday's dars was we shall all be tested. The topic for yesterday's dars is we shall all be tested. Tafsir Surah Al-Ankabut, and the topic is we shall all be tested. So if it takes 5 lessons to finish Surah Al-Ankabut, each lesson has a different topic. Each lesson has got a different topic. Yesterday we stopped at Ayah 11. So we'll explain Ayah 10. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ فَإِذَا أُوذِيَ فِي اللَّهِ جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. Ayah 10. Of mankind are some who say we believe in Allah, but if they are made to suffer for the sake of Allah, they were persecuted by the kuffar. The infidels persecuted them because of their religion. They consider the trials of mankind, they consider the persecution of mankind as Allah's punishment upon them. And if victory comes from your Lord, the hypocrites will say, verily, we were always with you. We were with you, helping you. Is not Allah best aware of what is in the breast of the Alameen, mankind and jinn? There is no doubt that the kuffar will persecute you, and the reason why they persecute you is because they want you to apostate. There are 2 reasons why the kafirs persecute you. The first reason, they want you to apostate. And Allah told you in Baqarah 217, وَلَا يَزَالُونَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ حَتَّى يَرُدُّوكُمْ عَنْ دِينِكُمْ إِنِ اسْتَطَاعُوا. They, the infidels, will forever fight you for the sake of your deen until they make you become an apostate, if they have the ability to do so, in istata'u. The second reason why the kafirs persecute you is to stop the growth of Islam. So there are many Jews, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists in the UK who would like to embrace Islam, but when they see what Babar Ahmed is suffering, they think twice about embracing Islam. They are saying, I don't want to be rotting away in Belmarsh like Babar Ahmed. I don't want to be persecuted. Because at this moment in time, the Muslims are being marginalized. The Muslim community in Europe and America, this community is being marginalized, and they are persecuted, and they are suffering. The men are in jail, and the wives are left to fend for themselves. It's better for me to hang on to Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism or Sikhism. At least the Sikh community, they are not being marginalized. They are not being targeted and persecuted. The Sikhs, it is their honeymoon. It's only the Muslims who are being marginalized. So the reason why the Gora means the white kafir, the reason why he persecutes you in Europe and America is because he wants to stop the growth of Islam. He wants you to apostate. I quoted an ayah, Baqarah 217. I hope you brought the ayah. وَلَا يَزَالُونَ يُقَاتِلُكُمْ. Okay, shukran, yes. And they will forever fight you for the sake of your deen until they make you turn an apostate, if they have the ability to do so. The second reason why they persecute you is because they want to warn other people who are thinking about converting to Islam. Look, the Muslim community are suffering, they are being persecuted. The men are in prison, some of them for 10 years, no charge, like Babar Ahmed. Do you want to suffer the same? It's better for you to hang on to Christianity. The Christian community is not being marginalized. Not even the Sikh community is being marginalized. So hang on to what you have, because if you embrace Islam, you're going to suffer. Now, history repeats itself. The Holy Prophet suffered 3 years of sanction and embargo in Mecca. They had to eat the leaves of trees to survive, and they had to boil their shoes and eat it to survive in the valley. And you could hear the kids, the children, crying out in the valley from hunger. Can you believe it? The kuffar were so evil that you could hear the kids in the valley crying out from intense hunger. And the Sahabas had to tie stones on their bellies to quell the pangs of hunger. Now, the whole purpose of this embargo that they unleashed against the Holy Prophet ﷺ in Mecca was for the Prophet and his companions. They wanted the Muslims to apostate. That's what they wanted. They wanted the Muslims to apostate. Now, we don't believe in democracy, but Hamas used democracy to win power in the Gaza Strip, and Fatah lost the election. The white man said we can't do business with Hamas because it's a terrorist organization. So we are going to put sanction and embargo on the Palestinians who voted for Hamas, and we are going to punish them. You see how evil the white man is? Democracy means the government of the people, for the people, by the people. So the people should choose who they want to rule over them, because that's the definition of democracy. The government of the people, for the people, by the people. Okay, the Palestinians, they said we want Hamas to be the governor over us, to rule over us. So we're going to vote for Hamas. The white man said, no, you can't vote for Hamas, you have to vote for Fatah. So where is the democracy then? I thought you said democracy means the people have the freedom to choose who they want to choose, because it means the government of the people, for the people, by the people. They said, no, we're going to put sanction and embargo on Hamas and starve the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. We are going to put a siege in Gaza because they voted for Hamas. We are going to punish you for voting for Hamas. That's how evil the white man is. The white man is a dictator. You have to vote for the party he wants you to vote for. If you don't vote for that party, he's going to punish you. His policy is, if I hate someone, you're not allowed to love that someone. If I hate a system, you are not allowed to love that system. What the white man is saying, the kuffar, you have to love what I love and you have to hate what I hate. You have to love and hate for the sake of the Gora. If you don't love and hate for the sake of the Gora, you're going to pay a heavy price. That is his policy. So the whole purpose of persecuting the believers is for you to turn back on your heels as an apostate. Like Allah told you in Baqarah 217, وَلَا يَزَالُونَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ حَتَّى يَرُدُّوكُمْ عَنْ دِينِكُمْ إِنِ اسْتَطَاعُوا. And the whole purpose of persecuting the Muslims is to make an example out of them. To say to others, don't you entertain the idea of embracing Islam. Because if you embrace Islam, you're going to suffer. Can't you see we are persecuting the people who embrace Islam? Can't you see the Muslim community is being marginalized and they are suffering? You're better off not embracing Islam. So the reason why the kuffar persecute the Muslim community is because they want to stop the growth of Islam. But Allah Ta'ala told you that Islam will dominate the world. Surah 61 verse 9. هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله ولو كره المشركون. He it is that has sent his messenger with the huda, the guidance, and the religion of truth, Din al-Haq, to be victorious over all the other religions, even though the mushrikun, they hate it. the idolaters, the pagans. They hate it. So even though you hate it, and because you hate it, you are persecuting the Muslims, and you put aside a day to draw cartoons about Muhammad, to insult Muhammad out of hatred for Islam, and you ban the minaret in Switzerland, and you ban the hijab in France and the niqab in Belgium, and you want to ban halal meat in Holland. You ban because you hate Islam. And you declare war on any Muslim country that implements the Sharia and call the country a rogue state. But even though you hate الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله ولو كره المشركون. Surah 61 verse 9. He it is that has sent his messenger with the guidance, the Huda, and the religion of truth, to be victorious over all the other religions, even though the mushrikun, the pagans, they hate it. So your persecution of the Muslims will not curtail the growth of Islam. That is your aim and that's your objective. Please send out invites to everyone on your pass list so that they know that the dars has started. Your persecution of the Muslims will not curtail the growth of Islam. And then Allah Ta'ala said, you the Muslims, when the Kafirs persecute you, do not use it as an argument against Allah. Don't say Allah is punishing you. Allah did not use the kuffar to punish you. When the Sahabas suffered, like Ammar ibn Yasir, when he suffered, he didn't say that Allah used the suffered. They drag him over the hot desert sand until his skin stripped off, and they use red hot iron to brand him and to put a big stone on his stomach. Bilal didn't blame Allah and said Allah is using Quraysh to punish me. He didn't have a go at Allah. So when you are being persecuted by the kuffar in life, you are not allowed to insult Allah and to say Allah has abandoned me. Allah Ta'ala has rejected me. Why did Allah abandon me for the kuffar to persecute me? Why? So this is how life is. Allah Ta'ala said there are people in life, when they suffer persecution, they blame it all on Allah. The Sahabas, the companions, they didn't blame Allah when they suffered persecution. When Sumayya was stabbed, should she blame Allah? She was killed. Her husband Yasir was also killed. Her son Ammar was on the verge of death. But he apostated from Islam with his tongue because he was under Iqra. Iqra means persecution. And when he left Islam with his tongue, he didn't become a kafir. He pulled a stunt, he deceived Quraysh. And to prove that he didn't become a kafir, all he did was to deceive Quraysh. Allah revealed Surah 16:106. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. Except those who were forced to apostate while his heart is contented with Iman. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. Except he who was forced to apostate while his heart is contented with Iman. Surah 16:106 was revealed for Ammar ibn Yasir because this is a scenario which is called Iqra. Iqra means when you apostate from Islam because you are on the verge of death. Or a person hold a gun at you and tell you to eat pork. If you eat the pork, you didn't do haram because the person held a gun at you and tell you to eat pork. I know some of you in the room will say, I'm sorry, I will never eat the pork, I'd rather die. That is your attitude. But I'm saying to you, if you had ate the pork because the kafir held a gun at your head, it is called Iqra. Iqra means duress. Therefore, you did not do anything haram. And there's a whole chapter called Iqra, which you can study on your own. There's a whole bab, a whole chapter which is called Iqra, because some people they abuse Iqra. The hypocrites they abuse the concept of Iqra. Iqra means duress. You are forced to do what you did. The hypocrites in Medina, when the Sahabas used to go for battle, they used to say, "You are going to lose. You don't have the power to fight." And when the Sahabas returned from the battlefield victorious, they said, "We were always with you. Our hearts were with you. Morally, we were with you." But these same people in Medina, and they saw the Sahabas going to the battlefield, they used to say, "You're going to lose the battle. It doesn't make sense you go and fight." Because they stayed at home and they didn't go to the front line, they tried to talk people out of it. Stay home, don't go to the front line. And when the Sahabas returned home with a glorious victory, they say, "We were always with you. We had the same creed as you to fight. Our cause is the same. Our aim and objective is the same. We were always with you." That is the attitude of the Munafiq. When he sees victory, he wants to share in the victory. When he sees defeat, he says, "Poor fools, if they had listened to us and didn't go to the front line, they wouldn't have died." That's their attitude. Poor fools. Had they listened to us and didn't go to the front line, they wouldn't have died. That's the attitude. That's what they say when they see defeat. But when they see victory, they said they want to share in the glory of the victory. That is the mentality of a munafiq. It's very, very unfortunate how the munafiqeen, how they behave, how they speak. Verily Allah knows those who believe, and verily He knows the hypocrites. Allah will test the people with good and hard days to discriminate the good from the wicked. Although Allah knows all that before putting them to the test. So Allah Ta'ala tells you that the sweetness of victory and the bitterness of defeat He's going to give you in turns. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامِ نُدَاوِلُهَا. I give you the sweetness of victory and the bitterness of defeat, I give you in turns. Surah 3, 140. Surah 3, 140. Allah said, the sweetness of victory and the disappointment of defeat, the bitterness of defeat, I will give it to you in turns. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامِ نُدَاوِلُهَا. And the purpose of the victory in turns. So Allah told you that He will give you both the sweetness of victory and the bitterness of defeat. The sweetness of victory we give to men in bad turns. And so the days good and not so good we give to men in bad turns, that Allah may test those who believe, and that He may take martyrs from among you. The bitterness of defeat, the sweetness of victory and the bitterness of defeat He gives you in turns. Surah 3, 140. And the whole purpose of giving you in turns is to test to see who is a sincere believer, who will have sabr, and to make some of you become shaheed. Some of you need to become shaheed. You are so sinful, you need to become shaheed. You smoke weed. Some of you sniff cocaine secretly at home. You cheat on your wives. And you have other weaknesses which I can't bother to talk about. Your weaknesses are so shameful, you need to go and die on the battlefield. That's your only hope of going to the paradise, to become a shaheed. Because when you become a shaheed, all your sins are forgiven. And if the jihad was fard al-ain, even the people you owe money, that is forgiven. The only time debt is not forgiven when you owe a person money is if the jihad is fard kifaya. If the jihad is fard kifaya, you have to pay people their money, those who you borrow money from. The only time you are not held accountable for borrowed money is if the jihad was fard ain. Then you are not held accountable for money you borrow. when you borrow money, you don't like to pay it back. Whenever you borrow money, you don't like to pay it back. You try to pull a stunt on the Muslim community. Some of you, you rip off Muslims so much, I wonder if you believe in Judgment Day. I can't think you believe in Judgment Day the way you rip off Muslims. There is a man who has never been to university, and he calls himself a sheikh, and he goes from one country to the next and rip off thousands of pounds from Muslims. All he took was a beard and a thobe, and claim a title. It's like a man who has a surgery and he didn't go to medical school, but he has a surgery. That's what this person is doing. He goes from one country to the next and rip off Muslims. And he would never go to a poor country. He only goes where Muslims have money so that he can get something to steal. I don't need to call his name. Everybody in the room knows who I'm talking about. The way people rob these days, I wonder, do they really believe in Judgment Day? Don't you know the property of the Muslims is sacred? The Muslims have 6 sacred things: his life, his wealth, his honor, his aql, his intellect, his lineage, and the last is his deen. These are the 6 sacred things. And you are not allowed to violate these 6 sacred things of the believers. And those who disbelieve say to those who believe, follow our way, and we will verily bear your sins. Never will they bear anything of their sins. Surely they are liars. Ayah 12. This is a new ayah. We haven't covered this ayah yesterday. The tafsir for the ayah is that in Mecca, the Kafirs of Quraysh, the pagans, they approached the Sahabas and said, leave Islam and come back to the idols. Come and worship Lat, Uzza, Hubal, Manat. And on Judgment Day, we will carry your sins. Come and worship the idols of the Kaaba. Don't worry about that sin of worshiping idols. We will carry your sin on Judgment Day. Allah is saying in the ayah, they are liars. If Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali should apostate from Islam, Bilal, Sa'd ibn Abu Waqqas, the early Sahabas, Abdurrahman bin Auf, if they should apostate from Islam and worship idols, you can't save them on Judgment Day. So don't lie and say to them, leave Islam, come back to the idols, come and worship idols with us, and we will carry your sins. We will be the one to bear your burden. We will carry your sins. It's a big lie. Allah told you in the Quran, Surah 35, verse 18. وَلَا تَزْرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. Surah 35, verse 18. That on Judgment Day, no soul can bear the burden of another. Surah 35, verse 18. وَلَا تَزْرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. No soul can carry the burden of another. So, do you think the Sahabas are stupid? They don't know the Quran? If Allah is saying that no soul can carry the burden of another, why did you approach the Sahabas and tell them, come and worship the idols and we will carry your sin on Judgment Day? The ayah is clear. Surah 35, verse 18. وَلَا تَزْرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. And no soul can bear the burden of another. So what they are saying to you is nothing but lie. And verily they shall bear their own loads and other loads beside their own. Now, listen to the ayah. Ayah 13. And verily they shall bear their own loads and other loads beside their own. And verily they shall be questioned on the day of resurrection about that which they used to fabricate. Bring me Ayah 13, Surah Al-Ankabut. Because In this ayah, Allah said no soul can bear the burden of another. But in the other ayah, Allah is saying that on Judgment Day, they will bear the burden of others. So what is the tafsir? Because a Jehovah's Witness can bang on your door and say, the Quran contradicts itself, the Quran contradicts itself. And because you don't know the tafsir, the Jehovah's Witness cause you to have a doubt about the Quran. So you need to know the tafsir of Surah Al-Ankabut verse 13. And verily they shall bear their own loads and other loads beside their own. And verily they shall be questioned on the day of resurrection about that which they used to fabricate. It's important that you know the tafsir of this ayah. The tafsir is, if you introduce an evil act into the Muslim community and the people copy you, they follow you, they imitate you into your act, you will incur the wrath of Allah, the sin, and you'll carry the sin of all the people who followed you into that act. And if you introduce something good to the Muslim community and people copied you into doing that good thing, you will get the barakah, and you will get their barakah without their barakah being diminished. That is the tafsir of the ayah. So please don't entertain the idea the Quran contradicts itself. Only the Jahil thinks the Quran contradicts itself because he doesn't know the tafsir of each and every ayah. So the Jahil thinks like that. And the Holy Prophet said, whenever a man kills a man, Cain, the first son of Adam, he shares in the sin because he was the first person to establish the sunnah of killing people. This hadith can be found in Sahih Bukhari. Surah 16 verse 25. Surah 16 verse 25. What did Allah Ta'ala say in this ayah? In Surah 16 verse 25, Allah Ta'ala said, لِيَحْمِلُوا أَوْزَارَهُمْ كَامِلَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَمِنْ أَوْزَارِ الَّذِينَ يُدِلُّونَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ أَلَا سَاءَ مَا يَزِرُونَ. They will bear their own burden. Listen to Surah 16 verse 25. And the reason why I bring you Surah 16 verse 25 is to prove to you that the Quran resembles the Quran and the Quran doesn't checkmate the Quran. Listen to Surah 16 verse 25. They will bear their own burdens in full on the day of resurrection, and also of the burdens of those whom they misled without knowledge. Indeed is evil, indeed is that which they shall bear. Do you understand what Allah said in Surah 16 verse 25? You, the evil man who introduced bad things to the community. Allah is telling you, the evil man who introduced a bad thing, they will bear their own burdens in full on the day of resurrection, and also of the burden of those whom they misled without knowledge. So think about the people who introduced Trinity to Christianity at the Council of Nicaea. Those evil men who gathered in Turkey in a city called Nicaea. Today the city is called Izmir. And they introduced Trinity into Christianity and corrupt the monotheism that Jesus laid down. I would never like to be in their shoes on the day of judgment. A'udhu billah. Think about Lu'ay ibn Amr, who came back from Syria, and he brought back with him an idol called Hubal. And then he put it down in front of the Arabs and said, this is your God. From now on, Hubal is your God. And the Arabs left off the monotheism which was taught to them by Abraham and Ismail. I would never like to be in his shoes on Judgment Day. Lu'ay ibn Amr. Well, on Judgment Day, there is no shoes. You will be resurrected barefooted. When I say I would never like to be in your shoes, I don't mean literally you will have shoes on Judgment Day. Because on Judgment Day, you will be resurrected barefooted and naked and uncircumcised. Barefooted, naked, uncircumcised, and thirsty. So not because you hear me say I'm in his shoes on Judgment Day, don't entertain the idea that on Judgment Day you're going to be wearing shoes, whether it is Gucci or Clarks or Nike or Adidas. These things won't exist on Judgment Day. So don't take what I'm saying literally. When I say I don't want to be in his shoes, I don't want to be in his place, in his position on Judgment Day. Lu'ay ibn Amr came back from Syria with an idol called Hubal, put it in front of the Arabs and said, "That's your God, worship that." All the Arabs who copied him and worship Hubal, he has to carry their sin on Judgment Day. That is the ayah. Surah 16, verse 25. And the reason why I'm using Quran to explain Quran is because I told you yesterday that the Quran resembles the Quran. The Quran doesn't checkmate the Quran, checkmate the Bible. That's not the case. The Quran resembles the Quran. So I can use Quran to explain Quran. So Allah Ta'ala said, "And verily they shall bear their own loads and other loads beside their own. And verily they shall be questioned on the day of resurrection about that which they used to fabricate." So Judgment Day is called Yawm al-Hisab, the day of reckoning, because you'll be questioned about everything you did. Everything you did, you'll be questioned about it on Judgment Day. Even what you eat, you'll be questioned about it. Even your pleasures. Allah said, "Kalla la tus'aluna yawma idhin 'anil na'im." On that day, you'll be questioned about your na'im, your pleasures. Kalla la tus'aluna yawma idhin 'anil na'im. Surah 102. All your delight, you'll be questioned about it on the day of judgment. We continue with our tafsir of Surah Al-Ankabut, the spider. And indeed we sent Noah to his people, and he stayed among them for 1,000 years, except 50, inviting them to believe in the oneness of Allah and to discard the false deities and other false gods, the false gods they worship. So the divulge overtook them while they were zalimun, wrongdoers. Allah is hereby talking about Noah. Do you know why? Because between Adam and Noah there were 10 generations of people, and they were upon Tawheed. The very first people to worship false deities were the people of Noah. Nobody before the people of Noah worshipped idols. Nobody before the people of Prophet Lut dabbled in homosexuality. So the reason why Allah is making mention of Noah here is because his people were the first people to dabble in shirk. Yeah, his people were the very first people to dabble in shirk. Now, shirk means the worship of false deity. Between Adam and Noah, there were 10 generations, and they were all upon Tawheed. And the people of Noah were the first to dabble in shirk. How did the shaitan deceive them into becoming mushrikeen, pagans? The children and the grandchildren of Adam were very, very pious. And when they died, the people were heartbroken. So the shaitan said to them, "Why don't you make statues out of your loved ones who died? Because they were pious, and I can see you miss them a lot, and you are devastated because of their death." So the people, they make idols out of the pious people who died. Then the shaitan said, "Why don't you put the idols in the public square so that when people go to work in the mornings, everybody can have the opportunity to look at these idols? Why do you keep it in your homes? Put them, make them larger and put them in the public square to give everybody an opportunity to look at these idols when they go to work in the mornings." So they did exactly that. Then they suffered drought. "Why don't you pray to these idols and beg them to beg Allah for rain?" Okay, we were discussing sequential persuasion. Sequential persuasion is to seduce a person little by little, step by step, until you get him to do what you want him to do. And the monk who was given the girl to look after, Barsisa, The shaitan used sequential persuasion against him as well. We don't have time to go into that. Sequential persuasion, for example, a man said to a girl, "Come and model for me in dresses to your knees." And then he says to her, "I will double your paycheck if you model for me in bikini." And then she accepts. And then he says, "I will give you 3 times your paycheck if you participate in a soft porn." And she agrees. And then he says, "I will give you 4 times the paycheck if you participate in hardcore porn." And then she agrees. So this is called sequential persuasion. To seduce a person little by little, step by step, until you get them to do exactly what you want to do. And this is a strategy used by Shaitan. And we covered this in details in a topic called Satan's Web. The admins can bring that link, Satan's Web. We don't have time to go into Satan's Web because his webs are many and numerous and various. And I do not want to digress from the topic. Anyway, we are talking about Prophet Noah, that the people, his people, were the first people to dabble in shirk. And the shaitan told them, "Make statues out of your loved ones who were very, very pious." And they did it. So the statue will remind you of these pious people. Then the shaitan said to them, "Put the statue in the square so that when people go to work in the mornings, everybody will have the opportunity to look at the statue." And they did it. Then the shaitan said, when the rain didn't come, they suffered drought. The shaitan said, "Pray to the statue and ask the statue to ask Allah to send the rain." Beseech the statue. Beseech the statue. Pray to the statue and beg the statue to tell Allah to send the rain. And they did that. And this is how he introduced shirk to humankind, by using sequential persuasion. Now, Ibn Abbas, the cousin of the Prophet, said that the revelation came down to Noah when he was 40 years old, just like the Prophet Muhammad. And he spent 950 years among the people, giving them the da'wah, inviting them to Tawheed. And the flood came, and he lived 60 years after the flood. So when he died, he was 1050 years old. This is the calculation of Ibn Abbas. I repeat, revelation came to Noah when he was 40, just like the Prophet Muhammad. And Noah was an Arab prophet. Then the da'wah was for 950 years, and after the flood, he lived for 60 years after the flood. This was the calculation of Ibn Abbas. Surah 10 verse 96. Surah 10 verse 96. Surah 10 verse 96. Allah Ta'ala said, "Inna alladhina haqqat alayhim kalimatu rabbik la yu'minun." Truly, those against whom the wrath of your Lord has been justified will never believe. They will not believe, even if every sign should come to them until they see the painful torment. Now, why did I bring you Surah 10 verse 96? Because many of you are saying, how can a person give da'wah for 950 years? That's a long time. And at the end of that, only 80 believe, 80. How many people you thought were in the boat with Noah? Only 80. And to make matters worse, his wife was a kafir. Something many of you in this room did not know. His wife was a kafir. He had a kafir wife. The Prophet Muhammad didn't have any kafir wives. Even Maria, who was given to the Prophet as a gift by the king of Egypt, she took Shahada. She was a Christian, Coptic. And when the Rasul gave his farewell khutbah, which we covered in this room in details, the farewell khutbah, I quoted to you an ayah before we got cut off. Surah 10, 96 to 97. 96 to 97. Truly, those against whom the wrath of Allah has been justified will not believe, even if every sign should come to them until they see the painful torment. So, some people were made for the hellfire, and regardless of how much dawah you give them, they will never embrace Islam. That's what the ayah is saying to you. And when the Prophet Muhammad was in Mecca, he was filled with zeal and enthusiasm to convert everybody to Islam. And when Allah saw how the Prophet was filled with zeal and enthusiasm to convert everyone to Islam, Allah revealed Surah 12, 103. Surah 12, 103. وَمَا أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah Ta'ala said, and the majority of people will never believe, O Muhammad, even though you desire it eagerly. Even though you are filled with zeal and enthusiasm to convert the whole of mankind to Islam, the majority of people will not believe. وَمَا أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. And as a Muslim, you're not supposed to give da'wah to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. That's not allowed. You give da'wah to the person who shows interest. If a person is an adamant atheist and argumentative, garrulous and cantankerous, he is not a suitable candidate for da'wah. When you focus on a person who is garrulous, cantankerous, argumentative, rebellious to the truth, you are wasting your time and you are throwing silver and gold to the swine. That's what you're doing. You are throwing silver and gold to the swine. You are throwing diamond to the swine and you are wasting your time. And this person doesn't worth a dime. So who do you give da'wah to? You give da'wah to the person who shows interest in the message. Because Allah said, فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. Give the admonition if it benefits the person. Surah 87. فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. You give the admonition only if it benefits the person. You don't give the da'wah to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Some people are adamant in their kufr. In verse 9. فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. Surah 87, verse 9. Give the admonition if it benefits the person. فَذَكِّرْ إِن نَفَعَتِ الذِّكْرَى. When you give da'wah to a person who is argumentative, garrulous, cantankerous, rebellious to the truth, you are wasting your time, you are throwing diamond to the swine, and this person doesn't worth a dime. That's what you are doing. So Allah Ta'ala told you in Surah 10 that whenever a person was created hellfire, he is the hujjah, the evidence, he will never believe. Now, Allah Ta'ala blessed the Prophet with a miracle, and the moon was cleft asunder. And when the moon was cleft asunder, the Prophet said, "You're a witness." And still the infidels didn't believe, even though the moon split in front of their very eyes. Allah said, "Iqtarab shaqal qamar." The moon was cleft here, and the moon was cleft here. And every time the kafirs see a sign from Allah, they become arrogant, haughty, ostentatious. And they say, what? Muhammad worked magic on it. Muhammad worked on our eyes. Oh, Surah 54, verses 1 to 2. The Surah 54, verses 1 to 2. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. Judgment day has drawn near, and the moon was cleft asunder. وَإِن يَرَوْا آيَةً يُعْرِضُوا وَيَقُولُوا سِحْرٌ مُسْتَمِرٌ. Every time they see a sign from their Lord, they become proud, arrogant, haughty, ostentatious, and they say, this is only black magic. The moon didn't split, Muhammad worked black magic on our eyes. So whenever a person wants to be a kafir, he will always find a million excuses why he should remain as a kafir. Now the people of Noah, they mocked and jeered him, they ridiculed him. It is called smear, sneer, and jeer. And they defecated in the ark, the ship. Leprosy broke out on their bodies. One day a man went into the ark to defecate and he fell down into the feces. And then he realized that his body became cleansed. So he went and spread the word that the leprosy that you are suffering, the cure is the feces which is in the ark. So they had to go with their buckets and clean out the ark and bathe in the feces to get cure. Because the Prophet said, Ma anzalallah da illa anzalahu shifa. Every disease Allah sent down, the cure is sent down with it. So if every disease that Allah sent down, the cure was sent down with it, why man cannot find a cure for AIDS? Because man is weak. Can you find a cure for AIDS? What's the cure for AIDS? Do you know the cure for AIDS? I'm sure you don't know the cure for AIDS. AIDS has become pandemic among humankind. Ma anzalallah da illa anzalahu shifa. That's the hadith. The Prophet said there is no disease that Allah has created except that He also has created its treatment. Even the fly that drops in your drink. The Prophet said when the fly drops in your drink, you need to dip the fly. You baptize him. Why? Why you baptize the fly? When it drops in your soup, in your drink. Because one wing has the germs and the other wing has the cure. Look at that. One wing has the germs and the other wing has the cure. A Mu'tazila will say, I'm not going to dip no fly in my soup. Are you for real? We say, brother, the hadith is in Bukhari. I don't care, the hadith is in Bukhari. I'm not going to dip no fly in my drink. I'd rather throw the drink away and get another. That's how the Mu'tazilites argue. Because they worship the Aql. And they prefer the Aql over the Naql. Aql means the intellect. Aql is the intellect and the Naql is the text. They prefer the Aql over the Naql. So when they read anything in Quran and Sunnah, they don't accept it until their Aql agrees with it. And this manhaj is wrong. Because you can't use your Aql to describe paradise. When I was in university and the Sheikh told me there is wine in paradise, I was surprised. There is wine in paradise. He said, yes, Faisal, there is wine in paradise, but it doesn't make you drunk. And then he brought me the Hujjah from Surah Muhammad. And then when I was in university and the Sheikhs told me there is snow in paradise, I was shocked. Not snow in paradise, snow in the hellfire. Right there in the hellfire there is snow, freezing temperature. I was shocked. And I said, yes, Faisal, there is snow in the hellfire. Why do you think we suffer winter? That is when the hellfire is breathing its cold air. And we suffer summer because hellfire is blowing hot air. You can't use your Aql to know what is in paradise and what's in hellfire. You need revelation to understand your deen, not Aql. You're not a Mu'tazilite, a rationalist. Ali said, Laysa deen bi ra'i. This religion of ours is not by Aql, not by opinion, not by reason. If that were the case, we would wipe the bottom of the socks when we make mass. But I saw the Prophet wiping on top of his socks. Laysa deen bi ra'i. This deen is not by logic, not by opinion. Have you found the hadith of Ali? Ali radiallahu anhu observed, if the religion was based on opinion, the bottom of the socks would take preference in being wiped to the top of the socks. Collected by Ad-Darqutni and Abu Dawud. Okay, shukran for the hadith, that was very quick. Laysa deen bi ra'i. Our deen is not based upon logic. The weaker sex is the woman. A woman is the weaker sex. If our deen was based upon logic, when a man dies, the girl would get more inheritance than the boy. Because she is the weaker sex. But Allah said the man gets twice the portion of the girl. So if the man dies and leaves behind $3 million US, the girl gets 1 million and the boy gets 2 million. That is the Islamic law of inheritance. So our deen is not based upon logic. Laysa deen bi ra'i. So Allah spoke about Noah because his people were the first to dabble in shirk. Then He saved him and those who with him in the ship and made it the ship a lesson, a warning for mankind. So Allah said in Ayah 15, we saved him and those in the ship. Now, his wife was not in the ship. She was a kafir. and his son was not in the ship. He was a kafir. Do you follow? Two prophets had kafir wives, Prophet Noah and Prophet Lut. How many people were in the ship? 80. His son was not in the ship. His son was a kafir. And his wife was not in the ship. She was a kafir. So not because you are a prophet, that doesn't mean every wife of yours will be a believer. The Prophet Muhammad, Allah blessed him, all his wives were believers. And all his daughters made hijrah with him. And they were believers. His favorite daughter was Fatima. And Noah, when he told his son to ride in the boat, his son said, the mountain is tall enough to save me from the wrath of Allah. So his son was a Mu'tazilite. His akal, his brain tells him, I don't need to go in the boat with my father because that mountain over there is tall enough to save me from the wrath of Allah. But his akal failed him because no mountain in the world was tall enough to save him from the wrath of Allah. But he wasn't the first Mu'tazilite. The first Mu'tazilite was Iblis. Because when he was told to bow down to Adam, he refused to bow down because his akal tells him that fire is better than clay. You made me from fire, Adam you made from clay. So since fire is better than clay, I will never bow down. Surah 7 verse 12. أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْ خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. Surah 7 verse 12. And remember Abraham, when he said to his people, worship Allah alone and fear him. That is better for you if you did but knew. If you but knew. Ayah 16. So Noah called to Tawheed and Abraham also called to Tawheed because they were living in Dar Harb. So the manhaj of the prophets is to call to Tawheed. What's the evidence that the manhaj of the prophet is to call to Tawheed? Surah 16 verse 36. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. So when you meet people who call for Sharia in Dar Harb, always remember Surah 16 verse 36. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. There is not a single nation on earth except that we sent to that nation their own Rasul, a messenger, commanding them to worship Allah alone and to reject faith in the Taghut. Taghut means a false deity. Taghut means man-made isms and schisms, like capitalism, socialism, democracy. Every man-made ism and schism is a Taghut. And every false deity is a Taghut. Now, Jesus is not a Taghut. You know why? Why Jesus is not a Taghut? For you to be a Taghut, you have to know that the people are worshipping you and you agree for them to worship you. Then you become a Taghut. The Barelwis worship Muhammad. There is no doubt about that. They go to the Prophet grave in Medina and pray to the Prophet. Dua is ibadah. But the Prophet Muhammad is not a Taghut. Because for you to be a Taghut, you have to know that the people are worshipping you and you agree for the worship to take place. I give an example of a Taghut who is still alive. Dr. Tahir Qadri, a Barelwi. If you go on YouTube, you will see people making sajda to Dr. Tahir Qadri, a Pakistani, a Barelwi. And he enjoys it. That is a Taghut. For you to be a Taghut, you have to know that the people are worshipping you and you agree for the worship to take place. So the manhaj of the prophets is to call for Tawheed in Dar Harb. What's the evidence? Surah 16 verse 36. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. There is not a single nation on earth except that we sent to that nation its own Rasul, commanding the people to worship Allah alone and to reject faith in all the false deities. When you meet people who call for Sharia in the UK and France, always remember Surah 16:36. The deviants, they said they want to debate the students of Shaikh Faisal. They don't want to debate Shaikh Faisal because they think you are slow with the Hujjah. you forget which ayah to checkmate them. I was talking to somebody in PM. It was a sister, about 22 years old. And I asked her, where in the Quran Allah said He took you from the loins of Adam and made you testify against yourself, saying, am I not your one and only Lord? And you said, Bala, yes. And Allah said, I did this so that on Judgment Day you can't use the excuse of ignorance. She told me, I don't know where it is in the Quran. I know the ayah, but I don't know where to find it. Wallahi, she said that to me. Then I said, where in the Quran Allah said Muhammad is only a bashar, a man like you? She said, that is the ayah you use to checkmate the brothers. She said, I heard the ayah before, but I don't know where to find it. I asked her about 6 crucial ayahs which we use to checkmate hypocrites and deviants and kuffar, and she did not know where one ayah was found. Wallahi, she couldn't tell me where one ayah was found. That's why the hypocrites, they said, we don't want to debate Shaikh Faisal, we want his students. Because they think you are slow with the hujjah. You don't know where in the Quran the ayah is found. You don't have a clue where in the Quran the ayah is found. So you are like the soldier who went to the battlefield with no ammunition and got killed. A Saudi Salafi from another room said, we don't want to debate Shaikh Faisal, we want his students. Because they think you are slow with the hujjah. You can't checkmate them with the hujjah. You're going to take an hour to find the hujjah. I'm going to start giving you a test to see how sharp you are, and quizzes to see how sharp you are. Some people are afraid to speak to me on a one-to-one basis in PM because they're afraid I might test them and ask them questions which they answer. Don't worry, I won't make takfir in you. If you don't know where the ayah is found, I won't make takfir, don't worry. You don't have to be scared. Anyway, we continue with our tafsir. Now, Abraham, Allah said, remember Abraham, when he said to his people, worship Allah alone and fear Him. That is better for you if you but knew. His own father was among those who worship idols, Abraham. And Allah said in the character of Abraham, you'll find a beautiful stance. In the stance of Abraham, Surah 60 verse 4. قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ. Surah 60 verse 4. Indeed, there has been an excellent example for you in Abraham and those with him, the believers with him. إِذْ قَالُوا لِقَوْمِهِمْ إِنَّا بُرَآ مِنْكُمْ وَمِمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ كَفَرْنَا بِكُمْ وَبَدَا بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءُ أَبَدًا حَتَّى تُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ. Indeed, in the character of Abraham, you'll find the most excellent example. He and the believers who were with him. When they said to their people, verily we are free from you, we make bara from you. And whatever you worship beside Allah, the false deities you worship beside Allah, we have rejected you, and there has appeared between us and you hostility and hatred forever until you believe in Allah alone. This is called al-wala wal-bara. He declared hatred between himself and his father unless he abandons the idols and worship Allah alone. For you to be a sincere Muslim, you need to practice al-wala wal-bara, and you are not allowed to take the enemies of Islam for your friends and allies. You need to ask yourself, do I have an enemy of Islam as a friend? Do I have a hypocrite as a friend? Do I have a person who plots against Islam as my friend? Because if you have an enemy of Islam for your friend, that means you're a hypocrite and a low-life scum of the earth. And you are not upon the millah of Abraham. You need to practice millat Ibrahim. Even the scholar of Islam, Abu Muhammad al-Maqdisi, he wrote a book called what? Millat Ibrahim. This book is talking about al-wala wal-bara, millat Ibrahim. which all of you should have in your home to read. Allah said, in the character of Abraham, in his conduct, you'll find the most excellent example. The most excellent of example. Because he denounced his father. Why he denounced his father? He denounced his father because he was a pagan. You are not allowed to have the enemies of Islam for your friends and protectors and allies. Not even your own mother, father, brother, sister. Allah said in Surah 58 verse 22, the believers don't take the enemies of Islam for their friends. Not even if their own mother, father, brother, sister, relatives, their own cousins. If you find out that they are enemies of Islam, you'll never have them as a friend. Surah 58 verse 22. You worship besides Allah only idols, and you only invent falsehood. Verily, those whom you worship beside Allah have no power to give you provision. So seek your provision from Allah alone, and worship Him alone, and be grateful to Him. To Him alone you will be brought back. Surah 29 verse 17. Surah 29, Ankabut 17. You worship beside Allah only idols. Even in the Catholic Church, they have the statue of the Virgin Mary and the statue of Jesus in there. And they bow to these statues in the Catholic Church. And Allah said, you only invent falsehood. Meaning, these stories you make up about Allah, these stories are nothing but a pack of lies. You, the kafir, you invent falsehood. And who can be eviler than the man who fabricates a lie against Allah? Who can be eviler? Surah 61 verse 7. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمَ مِمَّنْ افْتَرَىٰ عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبٍ. Who can be eviler than the man who fabricates a lie against Allah? You, the Christians, you are no different. You fabricate lies as well. Didn't you say in the book of Genesis, Genesis 2 verse 3, Allah rested on the seventh day? Didn't you accuse Allah of resting on the seventh day, you the Christians? You the Christians, didn't you say that Allah repented that He made man? Genesis 6 verse 6. Genesis 6 verse 6. You said Allah repented that He made man. Where is the King James Version of the Bible? Genesis 6 verse 6. Okay. Look how stupid the Christians are. I'm going to teach you how to checkmate them. In Genesis 6 verse 6, they said God repented that He made man. In Numbers 23 verse 19, they said God doesn't repent. What a contradiction. The Christians say in Numbers 23 verse 19, God doesn't repent. Yet they contradicted themselves by saying in Genesis 6 verse 6, God repented that He made man. A'udhu billah. So Allah said, when a person is a kafir, all they do is to lie on Allah. Whether the kafir is a Christian, a Jew, a Buddhist, a Sikh, whatever the case may be, all they do is to make up lies, lies, lies. That's all they are good at, to fabricate lies on Allah. Now, even a madkhali lies on Allah, because he claims when you dismantle the Sharia of Allah, it is a minor kufr. That's lying on Allah. And that is insulting Allah. You're saying Allah's Sharia is so cheap. When you dismantle it, it's a minor kufr. And these madkhali said the greatest jihad is to fight the mujahideen, to kill the mujahideen. Salih al-Fawzan. The greatest jihad is to kill the mujahideen? Is that your religion, Saudi Salafis? Jews lie on Allah as well. One day Abu Bakr Siddiq punched a Jew in the face. Why? Because the Jew said Allah is a faqir, Allah is poor, but they are rich. When the Jew complained to Muhammad, Abu Bakr punched him in the face. The Prophet asked the Jew why he punched him. He said, I didn't do anything. He punched me just like that. Abu Bakr told the Prophet why he punched the Jew. The Jew said, no, I didn't accuse Allah of being faqir. So Allah revealed an ayah to tell the Prophet Abu Bakr was speaking the truth and the Jew was lying. Which ayah? Surah 3, 181. لَقَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ فَقِيرٌ وَنَحْنُ أَغْنِيَاءٌ. Verily Allah heard the speech of those who say Allah is a pauper. Allah is poor, but they are rich. Surah 3, 181. Surah 3, 181. This ayah came down for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. There are other ayahs in the Quran that came down specifically for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Another ayah that came down specifically for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq is Yasin 47. Surah 36 verse 47 came down specifically for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, because he was feeding poor people. And Abu Jahl passed by and said, "Why do you feed poor people, Abu Bakr? Why are you feeding them? If it was Allah's will, they would find food. Why do you feed them?" Everything is predestined, Abu Bakr. Everything is predestined. So if it was Allah's will, these poor people that you are feeding, they would have found food. Because everything is Qadr Allah. Qadr. Abu Jahl used Qadr to checkmate. He was trying to use Qadr to checkmate Abu Bakr. You are feeding poor people. If it was Allah's will, they would have found food themselves. Abu Bakr said, Allah tests some of us with wealth, and some of us He tests with poverty. And those who were given wealth should have mercy in their hearts and feed the poor. Abu Jahl said, I will never embrace Islam, because if I embrace Islam, I'm going to have to use my money to feed poor people. I will never embrace Islam. Your religion is strange. So when he said that, Allah revealed Yasin 47. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ أَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أن نطعم ما الله يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين. And when it is said to them, spend of that which Allah has provided for you. Those who disbelieve, they say to those who believe, shall we feed people? If it was Allah's will, Allah would have fed them Himself. Indeed, you are in manifest error. You are in clear error. This ayah came down for Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. And there are other ayahs that came down for Abu Bakr. I don't want to go into them because I don't want to digress. Sometimes you complain, Shaikh Faisal went off on a tangent. I have admins complain. You went off on a tangent. So the other ayahs that came down for Abu Bakr, we discuss them another day. So when a person is a kafir, expect for them to lie on Allah. Do you follow? When a person is a kafir, expect for them to lie on Allah. Because Allah said the kuffar, all they do is to invent falsehood. Even the Shiites, they lie on Allah. Do you know what Shiites believe? Shiites believe Allah is a liar who is always making mistakes. What a pathetic people. And they have the audacity to call themselves Muslims. In their book Al-Kafi, their book Al-Kafi, that is their Bible, the Shiite Bible. What do they say? Allah is a liar who is always making mistakes. And some of you Sunnis want to unite with Shiites. You want to unite with Shiites and they say Allah is a liar who is always making mistakes. I put it to you, when a person is a kafir, their concept of Allah is warped. Their concept of Allah is messed up. You, the believer, you are the only person with the correct concept of Allah. And because of that, you practice what? Tawheed Asma wa Sifat. Tawheed Asma wa Sifat. You describe Allah with His 99 names and attributes, and you abstain from describing Allah with names that He did not use to describe Himself. Look at the Asha'ira, the Mu'tazila, the Shia, the Goofy Sufi. They lie on Allah. They say Allah is everywhere. Tell me the deviant group and I will tell you how they lie on Allah. Every deviant lie on Allah. You, the believer, you're the only person with authentic Aqidah, authentic Tawheed. You are not guilty of lying on Allah. Just tell me the name of that deviant group and I'll tell you how they lie on Allah. The Asha'ira, the Mu'tazila, even the Deobandis, they say Allah is everywhere. And they have the audacity to say they follow Abu Hanifa. You follow Abu Hanifa? You follow your evil and corrupted desires. I put it to you, Abu Hanifa used to make takfir on retards like you. You don't follow Abu Hanifa. Don't try to con us. We know the Aqidah of Abu Hanifa. So don't think we're stupid. The Habashis of Australia, they believe Allah is everywhere as well. They pass a fatwa, a girl can go in bikini on a public beach as long as she wears a hijab. That's the Habashis of Australia. You can parade in a bikini on the beach as long as you wear hijab. That's the Habashis, that's their fiqh. They're taking the mickey, they're making a mockery. When I was on tour of South Africa, I saw some masjids that don't allow women to come in the masjid. I said, why don't you allow women? They quote me a hadith. They said, Shaikh Faisal, we follow the mothers of the believers. Aisha was a mother of the believers. And Aisha said, if the Prophet was alive and see how the women dress scantily to go to the masjid, the Prophet would never allow the women to go to the masjid. So because of this hadith of Aisha, we don't allow women in the masjid. So you like to follow the mothers of the believers, the wife of the Prophet. What about Zainab bin Jahsh? Zainab bin Jahsh said, you, the wives of the Prophet, you were given to the Prophet by your families in the dunya. But I was given to the Prophet by Allah from above the 7 heavens. So based upon this hadith of Zainab bin Jahsh, and she was also a mother of the believer, Allah is above the 7 heavens. Because she said, you, the wives of the Prophet, you were given to the Prophet by your families in the dunya. But I was given to the Prophet by Allah from above the 7 heavens. So why don't you quote the hadith of Zainab bin Jahsh? Why you did your bandits? You don't want to quote that hadith. Why don't you follow Zainab bin Jahsh? You follow Aisha to ban your woman from the masjids. Why don't you follow the hadith of Zainab bin Jahsh? She said, I was given to the Prophet by Allah from above the 7 heavens. This is the hujjah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that Allah is above the 7 heavens. So why do you pick and choose which wife of the Prophet you want to follow? That means you're a hypocrite. You believe in a part of the hujjah and reject faith in another part. Baqarah 82. أَفَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِبَعْضِ الْكِتَابِ وَتَكْفُرُونَ بِبَعْضِ. Will you believe in some of the book and reject faith in another? If you want to follow the wives of the Prophet, follow the 9 wives of the Prophet. Don't follow one and ignore the other. You're a hypocrite. The beauty about us, we can follow every wife of the Prophet without discriminating. Because we are hypocrites who pick and choose which hadith to follow and which hadith to reject. Shiites do the same thing. They pick and choose which hadith to follow and which hadith to reject. That's a hypocrite. That's the hallmark of a hypocrite. He can't follow all the hadiths and he can't follow all the Quranic verses. He picks and chooses which one to follow. That is a hallmark of a hypocrite. And if you deny, the nations before you have denied. You, the Kafirs of Quraysh. This ayah is talking about the Kafirs of Quraysh because Surah Al-Ankabut was revealed in Mecca. There is no difference of opinion among the scholars. Surah Al-Ankabut that we are explaining was revealed in Mecca. And if you, the Kuffar of Quraysh, if you deny the message of Islam, then many nations before you, they also denied the messengers. And the duty of the messenger is only to convey the message. Like Allah told you in Surah Yasin verse 17, وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينَ. Our only duty is to give the balag, Surah 36 verse 17. So the duty of the messenger is to give the message, and it is Allah's duty to turn the hearts of the people towards the haqq. So if you deny Muhammad, many people before you also denied. But what was their fate? How did they end up? They were all destroyed by natural disasters. Surah 35 verse 43. Surah 35, verse 43. What did Allah say? Sunnat al-awwaleen falan tajda li sunnatillah tabdila walan tajda li sunnatillah tahwila. Then can they expect anything else but the sunnah, the way of dealing with the people of old? So no change will you find in Allah's sunnah of dealing with the people, and no turning off, no tahweel will you find in dealing with the people. Allah's sunnah cannot be changed. The sunnah of Allah is to destroy the kuffar with natural disasters. But the difference today, the difference is that the people before Muhammad, Allah destroyed them with natural disaster like the people of Noah and the people of Lut. But today, in our lifetime, Allah said, I prefer to use you, the Muslims, to kill the kuffar on the battlefield. Surah Tawbah, verse 14. Before Muhammad, I destroyed them with natural disasters. But today, in our lifetime, Allah said, I prefer to destroy the kuffar with the blessed hands of the mujahideen. Surah Tawbah, verse 14. So Allah Ta'ala said, قاتلوهم يعذبهم الله بأيديكم ويخزهم وينصركم عليهم ويشفي صدور قوم مؤمنين. Fight against them so that Allah will punish them by your hands, your blessed hands, and disgrace them and give you victory over them, and heal the breast of a believing people. When your mother was raped in front of you, the only thing that can heal your bosom, which is bleeding with anger and grief, is to kill the kafir who did it. When the Quran was desecrated and your breast is bleeding with grief, the only thing that can heal your bosom, which is grieving, Allah said, is jihad fi sabilillah. Surah Tawbah, verse 14. When your natural resources is being plundered by the kuffar, the only thing that can heal your bosom is jihad fi sabilillah. So because of that, Allah told you in Tawbah 14, قَاتِلُوهُمْ يُعَذِّبْهُمُ اللَّهُ بِأَيْدِيكُمْ. Fight them so that Allah will punish them, the kuffar, with your blessed hands. Did you see what happened in Yemen 2 days ago? One man took out over 100 kuffar. The admins can bring the link. One man with a martyrdom operation. He took out 100 kuffar in Yemen. One soldier of Islam, one lion of Islam, took out 100. And the house of Saud is trembling because the Mujahideen told them, when we are finished with Yemen, we are coming to get you. And we are going to release all the scholars you have rotting away in prison in Saudi Arabia. All the scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah that are rotting away in prison in Saudi Arabia, underground prisons, we are going to release all of them. And the kuffar are trembling. Where is the link about the situation in Yemen? You're taking too long to find the link. Okay, shukran. One man took out the kuffar, so many, in Yemen. The apostate army. And when the leader becomes an apostate, the army that supports the leader is also an apostate army. And Allah said in the same ayah, He will use you, the Muslim, to disgrace the kuffar. Do you know why you need to disgrace kufr? If you don't disgrace kufr, the Muslims are going to apostate. When communism was in its heydays in the 1970s, many Muslims in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Afghanistan became communists. Didn't you know that? Millions of Muslims became communists when communism was in its heydays in the 1970s. They became kuffar, communist. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Afghanistan, they became communists. Millions of people with the name Muhammad became communists. And today, millions of Muslims became kuffar again because they believe in democracy. I put it to you, if you don't disgrace kufr, the Muslims are going to become kuffar. Even sheikhs preach democracy like Tariq Ramadan, Yusuf Qaradawi. Even your sheikhs became kuffar by believing in democracy. So Allah told you in Surah Tawbah verse 14, if you don't disgrace kufr, the Muslims will become kuffar. And if you don't do jihad and punish the kuffar with your hands, the pain that you are suffering in your bosom will never be healed. Surah Tawbah verse 14. The only way forward. Today we have two Qibla. The Black House in Mecca and the White House in Washington. Those who believe in Islam, their Qibla is the Black House in Mecca. Those who believe in democracy, their Qibla is the White House in Washington. Make up your mind which Qibla you want. If you believe in democracy, your Qibla is the White House. If you believe in Islam, your Qibla is the Black House. You need to make up your mind which Qibla you want. Because the majority of the Muslims today, their Qibla is the White House because they believe in democracy. Why? Because the wicked scholars preached to them and told them democracy is the Shura system. Democracy is a Shura system. Anyway, we stop here for today. Tomorrow we'll continue the Tafseer of Surah Al-Ankabut. Inshallah, we'll stop here for today. Authentic 35. You give the topic. Yesterday's topic was Surah Al-Ankabut. We shall all be tested. Today's topic, Surah Al-Ankabut. You shall carry the sins of others. That's the topic. You shall carry the sins of others on Judgment Day. Who are they? Those who perpetrated bid'ah in the community and introduced evil in the community, and people follow them in their evil. You shall carry the sins of others on Judgment Day. That is today's topic. Surah Al-Ankabut. Which people? Those who introduce evil practices among the Muslims and they follow them in their evil practices. On Judgment Day, you will carry the sins of those who copied you and followed you in your evil practices. That is our topic for today. I'm taking 5 questions in regards to the tafsir you've just heard. There's a question. Some Muslims believe that to establish Sharia in Dar Harb is permissible due to the story of Lut in the Quran, when Allah commands Lut to warn the people of sodomy and to leave their corrupt ways. They say that this shows that Muslims are allowed to call for the Sharia in Dar al-Harb because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Lut to establish the Sharia in the land. Could you please give me your opinion on this issue? And the person who has said that statement is misguided, because the 4 great Imams, Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, and Ahmad ibn Hanbal, said that it is not permissible to implement Sharia in Dar Harb. So if a person should steal in the UK, you cannot cut off his hand. And if a man should cheat on his wife in the UK, which many Muslims do, you aren't allowed to stone the man to death in the UK or in the USA, in Europe or America, because these countries are called Dar al-Harb. And it is haram to implement Sharia in Dar al-Harb. This person is misguided. The reason why Lut was told by Allah to tell the people to quit homosexuality is because they were the first people to dabble in homosexuality. And no nation before them dabbled in homosexuality. And that type of fahisha means abnormal and indecent sexual intercourse. That type of fahisha was predominant in the society in the time of Lut. And don't think that Lut only invited the people to morality and to tell them to quit homosexuality. He also invited them to Tawheed, monotheism, as well as morality. Because of Surah 16, verse 36. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. There is not a single nation on earth except that we sent to them a Rasul, a messenger, commanded them to worship Allah alone and to reject the Taghut. And this person is totally misguided. And they also say that Noah said to his people, obey me. So because Noah said to his people, obey me, this is clear evidence that you can invite the people to Sharia in Darul Harb. When Noah said to his people, obey me, he was talking about Tawheed. What's the evidence? Surah 29 verse 14. Surah 29 verse 14 spoke about Noah. When Noah said obey me, he meant obey me and worship God alone. Bring me the ayah, Surah 29 verse 14. And indeed we sent Noah to his people, and he stayed among them for 1,000 years except 50, inviting them to the oneness of Allah, monotheism, and to discard the false gods. So when Noah said obey me, he meant obey me and worship God alone. That is the Tafseer. And the evidence is Surah 29 verse 14. So when Noah said to his people obey me, it wasn't to do with Sharia, it's to do with Tawheed. How can you invite a Frenchman, an Englishman to pray, which is Sharia, to pray is Sharia, when he doesn't know who he's going to pray to? He doesn't believe that God exists. So your manhaj is upside down and around. You want the Englishman, the Frenchman to pray, which is Sharia, but he doesn't know who he's going to pray to because he doesn't believe that God exists. So before you invite the person to pray, you have to invite the person to Tawheed. The Prophet said to Mu'adh ibn Jabal, when you go to Yemen, you are going to find Jews and Christians. Invite them to Tawheed first. And when they accept Tawheed, then you invite them to pray, to Salah. So why don't you stick to the manhaj of the Prophet, which he outlined for Mu'adh ibn Jabal when he sent him to Yemen. Stick to that manhaj and you will never go astray. I'm taking 4 more questions. Where are they? Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. May Allah increase you in knowledge and hikmah. Ameen. Shaykh, when the Madkhali insists that the leaders are on the duress to abandon the wise Sharia, how do we refute them? Yes, the Madkhalis, we debated the Madkhalis, but we had to trick them for the debate to take place. I had to go inside another room. Cancers in the body of the Ummah. And they did not know that I was going to come in the room. You have to trick them to debate them. They're not going to come for a debate. And you might have to use a different nick. And when we debated the Madkhalis, and they said that you can't make takfir on a leader until the leader does istihlal. Istihlal means to make what is haram halal. If the leader does istihlal, then you make takfir on him. When the Madkhalis said that, they checkmated themselves because the leaders have made istihlal. When you go to Saudi Arabia, you see the Saudi American bank, the Saudi French bank, the Saudi Dutch bank. These are banks based on riba. These multi-corporations cannot go to Saudi Arabia and set up a bank, which is riba, without the permission of a king. The king has to give permission. When the king gives permission, that is called istihlal. When we said that to the Madkhali said the king was under duress to give permission. He was making a mockery. He said the king was under duress when he gave permission to open the Saudi American bank, the Saudi French bank, the Saudi Dutch bank. The king was under duress. Duress is when a person put a gun at your head and force you to apostate. That is called duress. Duress is when your life is threatened. Nobody put a gun at the head of the king, whether it is King Fahd or King Abdullah, and said, sign this paper to open the Saudi American bank. If you don't sign the paper, we'll blow your head off. Nobody said that to the king. So when the Madkhali, the Saudi Salafi, said to us during the debate, the king was under duress, that's a big lie. Then we said to the Madkhali in the debate that when a Muslim country joins the UN, it is Ridda, apostasy. Because Allah said in Surah Muhammad, when you give your bay'ah to those who hate what Allah has revealed, you become an apostate. The Madkhali said the Prophet Muhammad did the exact same thing. Because when the Prophet signed the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, it's like joining the UN. So in the debate, the Madkhali slandered the Prophet Muhammad. This person came from another room called Authentic Salafiyah. He slandered the Prophet Muhammad in the debate. And Madkhali is so desperate, they will slander the Prophet and even slander Allah during a debate, just out of desperation, because he doesn't want to lose the debate. How can you say the Treaty of Hudaybiyah is the same as joining the UN. The Prophet did not join any organization with Quraysh. And Quraysh was the leader of the organization, and the Prophet said, I'm going to obey all the resolutions of Quraysh. The Prophet didn't do that. All the Prophet did was to sign a treaty saying 10 years no war. 10 years no war. We'll have peace with you for 10 years. When did Quraysh say, I am the main body for mankind and we legislate? We are the main body for mankind to legislate for mankind. And anybody who doesn't go by our resolution is a rogue state and we are going to fight them. Quraysh didn't say that. The UN believes and they declare we are the main body for mankind on earth and we legislate for mankind. And any country that doesn't accept the UN resolution is a rogue state and we are going to put embargo on you and trash your currency and destroy your economy. That is the UN. So to compare Quraysh to the UN, like the Madkhali did, it is called deception. Wrong qiyas. Ahmad ibn Hanbal said most mistakes are made with illogical qiyas. Aqwisa fasida. What did Ahmad ibn Hanbal say? Most mistakes are made with wrong qiyas, illogical qiyas. So to say that the UN and the Treaty of Hudaybiyah is the exact same thing, you are slandering the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what else can you expect from a Madkhali as Saudi Salafi? They are desperate, and desperate people resort to desperate measures. And after this debate took place, they said, we don't want to debate Shaikh Faisal, we want to debate his students. They think you will be slow with the Hujjah. They think you're not sharp with the Hujjah. They don't want to debate, they said, we don't want to debate Shaikh Faisal, we want his students. What makes you think you can defeat his students? Your Aqidah is so messed up, even a 12-year-old can debate you. I'm taking 5 questions, where are the others? Question number 3. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. There is some people that say voting is not shirk. Is this true? And the Muslims who are living in the West, they want to vote and they want to join the police, they want to join the soldier, they want to become MPs, they want to amalgamate into the society, blend in. They want to integrate and they want to turn their backs on jihad, sharia, khilafah. And even when the Mahdi comes, they are going to turn down the offer to join the Mahdi's army. When you vote, it is shirk, but you can't make takfir on the person until you establish the hujjah. When you vote, you are electing MPs to represent you in parliament and to legislate for you in parliament. That's why it is shirk. The whole system of democracy is a shirk system. Started in Greece from the 2 words demokratos, the government of the people, for the people, by the people. That means the people, the MPs, they are the legislators, the lawgivers. Democracy is a satanic system and you're not allowed to participate in it. It is a religion by itself and it's the religion of Iblis. Democracy means the demons have gone crazy. Democracy, the demons have gone crazy. In a democracy, a woman can marry a woman, a man can marry a man. In a democracy, you can go to a brothel with animals and have sex with the goats, the sheep, the dogs. That's in Denmark, in the name of democracy. In a democracy, a man can date his daughter, like in France and Brazil. That's democracy. Democracy means the demons have gone crazy. It's a satanic system. It's a religion, and the God which is worshipped is Hawa, evil desires, corrupted desires. Allah said in Surah 45, verse 23, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you not seen he who worships instead of Allah his evil and corrupted desires? Surah Jathiyah, Surah 45, verse 23. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you not seen he who worships instead of Allah his evil and corrupted desires? So that is the God in a democracy, evil desires, corrupted desires. All of you who believe in democracy, you have become apostates outside the fold of Islam. You are like the Muslims who lived in the 1970s who believe in communism. You are just like the Muslims in Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Afghanistan. In the 1970s, they all believe in communism. You are just like them. Why? Because you believe in democracy, which is another man-made ism and schism. The Dutch court lets pedophile party contest country's general election. There's a man who come on Pal Talk and he goes from room to room, and he said he has sexual urges for kids. And he's looking for a sheikh to give him a fatwa to marry a kid who is beneath puberty. This person is a white revert. Now, he was bounced and banned from many, many rooms, and they want to use the hadith of Aisha that the Prophet consummated the marriage of Aisha when she was 9. Based upon independent research, Aisha was 19 when she consummated her marriage, not 9. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. When I talk to my father, he do not know the deen, but he talks bad about Al-Shabaab. He says before they were good, but now they are killing people and cutting hands and heads. I stopped talking to my dad for some time. He would love for me to live in land of Kuffar than living in the land of Islam. He prefers for me to live in the land of Kuffar than to live in the land of Islam. When I tell my dad I want to move to a Muslim land, my father becomes so mad with me and he becomes mad with me, and he said to me, there is nothing bad living with disbelievers. There are humans like you. And my father said to me, you and your wife are not the same people. She not help to you. What do I do about that? Your father has a problem of weak iman and no al-wala wal-bara. He is a typical Muslim parent who likes to live in Dar Harb because of money. He's a typical Muslim parent. If you listen to your parents, you'll never study Islam because they want you to study medicine and computing. If you listen to your parents, you'll never get married to who you want to marry because they want you to marry a person based upon money. You should marry for money, not for religion. And marry from your tribe. If you listen to your Muslim parents, you'll never make hijrah because they want you to live in Dar Harb and earn money, the US dollars, the euro, the pound sterling. If you listen to your parents, you'll never do jihad because they don't want you to die. They want you to live and look after them when they become old. So this person is a typical Muslim parent. He's suffering from a disease that most Muslim parents are suffering from, and that's the disease of hypocrisy. Next question. I think we have one last question. This is the last question. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. My father died and left a property for us in Africa. I heard my elder brother want to give the house to the bank to rebuild it so they can rent it out for some years before they handle it back to us. Is this acceptable in Islam? I told my sister we should share it according to Sharia law. This question has to do with the Islamic law of inheritance. The Islamic law of inheritance is the most difficult subject in Islam. And because it is the most difficult topic, the most difficult subject, the Prophet said the first branch of knowledge to be lifted up from the Ummah in the last days is the Islamic law of inheritance. So much so that a man will die and his children will search the community looking for one sheikh, one mufti, one maulana to tell him how to divide the legacy, and they can find one scholar to tell them how to divide up this legacy. You're not allowed to get involved with the bank. That is haram, because the bank is going to lend you money and charge you interest. It's better for the person to sell the house and give out the money, allocate the money to the recipients of the inheritance. You should sell the house and give the money to the recipients of the inheritance. Or he can refurbish the house and put the house on rent, and the savings he has to divide it up among the recipients. If the recipients do not agree for the house to be put on rent, they want their money now, then he has to sell the house and divide up the legacy according to the Islamic law of inheritance. To sell the house and divide up the money according to the Islamic law of inheritance, it has to be done by a local sheikh who will appraise the house and evaluate the house. To handle this situation, Paltalk is not the appropriate place for this, because it's like a woman and her husband having arguments in the house, and the sisters, they come to Paltalk to ask, because I didn't hear the husband's side of the story. Things like marital discord has to be a local sheikh, Sharia law. That has to be done by a local sheikh, your local Islamic Sharia council. Pal Talk is not the right place to handle these matters because you need to hear both sides of the story. And don't try to use Pal Talk to replace your local ulama. That's what many of you are trying to do. You're trying to use Pal Talk to replace your local sheikhs, and this is not appropriate because we need to hear both sides of the story. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.